So welcome to the Dirt Trail Running Podcast. We are here at the Ornery Mule Racing Trailhead in Crystal Lake, Illinois. This is the home of our offices, showroom, warehouse, podcast, and YouTube show. And we welcome everybody to stop by and visit it with us. In the studio today, we have our director, Steve Streaker, working behind the scenes, and Luke is filming the show. And I've got Crystal the Pistol here with us.
Hello.
And then our guests today are running coaches Annie Weiss.
Hey.
And Brian Frain.
Hello.
So we had Annie and Brian on our last show where we learned about Brian's goal to run 20 marathons in Wisconsin in 2020. So listen to that to hear about that. And we also got to hear about Annie's finish at UTMB CCC, and that starts in France. Or was it France, correct?
Starts in Italy.
Italy, yeah. So, yeah, welcome, and thank you for coming out.
Thank
5
you.
minutes
Thanks for
later
having
here. But, so on this show, there's so much to talk about because you have such, do so much. But we wanted to learn about Badwater 135.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And how, when did you decide you wanted to do that?
It was actually on the trail while I was doing Ice Age. So I was out, it was day 18-ish, right in there. And we were in the Northern Kettles. And my friend Brad was running with me. And we were coming up probably within a quarter mile of seeing Brian to refill bottles and get some food. And he kind of offhandedly said to me, like, this would get you into Badwater. And I was like, what? What do you mean? What? And he's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you think about what you're doing here. This would probably, you have to apply, but this would be pretty good, to get you in. So then I said to Brian, like, oh, Brian, I could probably do Badwater.
Yeah.
And I just it just stuck in the back of my head. And so
had it ever been something that you thought about? Like, do you like heat running?
No, I had never liked heat running, until, mentally I was like, I have to prepare for heat running, and now it's all I want to do.
Okay.
It's what I prefer.
Yes,
I don't even go
love
out when
heat running.
Love it. Love it. And I had convinced myself early on, like, I'm not really good in the heat, so I really should avoid this race. You just kind of go through in your head what you should avoid. And okay. And so I was like, Badwater? Do I really want to do that? It never was something that was on my radar, thinking it was something that very, very select people get into and a very particular type of runner. And so then February came along. So we finished Ice Age in, September. And it opened in January. It opened in January, and we filled. It's a whole application process.
Yeah, I've heard it's
intense,
extensive.
Yeah,
so how long is that?
Well, so you have to have, what is it? I think 2 or 3 100-mile finishes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then
Do they need to be in that past year or just?
I think
maybe?
it's ever. I don't remember there being.
I don't
a time
remember
frame
a
on
window
it.
of time.
Okay.
And then they're looking for, Chris, the race director, is looking for stories, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not necessarily, just we're going to take 100 elites or we're going to take 100, rookies or whatever. He tries to mix it up, domestic, international, the whole 9 yards. But the actual application itself, you basically had to write an essay of why do you want to be in Badwater? And it was kind of this flashback to when you're graduating high school and applying for college scholarships and stuff like that.
It was,
why is going to Marquette important to you? And and you kind of had some ideas in your head, but really what it came down to was, like you just said, doing something that you had told yourself your whole life that you weren't good at. Mm-hmm. Because, you ran one race one time when it was hot and you blew up and it was like, well, I guess I can't run in heat. And you decided, instead of, just kind of taking that as, well, okay, I just don't run in heat. Let's crank it up to 11, so to speak. And let's figure out if I can run in heat or not.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And I had to answer questions about what Badwater finisher was my idol, and he forces you to really learn the history of Badwater, which I thought was which was cool.
Yeah.
It was $1,500 up front for the race.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you find out you get in, and then you get the list of all the other expenses you need to pay for.
So was that a surprise?
A little bit.
if people listen,
I love Chris. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. He's like me. He's very, this is how things are done, very type A. But he also really likes his brand. So like my crew, and you have to come with a crew. You have to have a van. You have to, there were things that you have to have, one of which they all have to be in certain reflective shirts that were of a certain grade. And so he's branded them with Badwater, which were really cool. I found other ones that worked that, to save some money and stuff like that. But yeah, there were, you probably know a little bit more about the requirements, but it's the first race where I had to make a binder. Of like, here's the schedule, here's what we need, here's how we're going to make sure we have all of these requirements, because there's so many rules involved.
Yeah, it was mind blowing, honestly. Like when she gets in and it's like, okay, I'm in Badwater, and like I was at work, and where I work I have really terrible cell service. And so he does like a Facebook Live where he's like reading off the names of the people that he's selecting. Annie's is the first name that's called, which is like is one of those things where it's like she's like.
Were you watching at the time?
I was watching.
Okay.
I was actually at home working from home that day, and I was just like, oh God, I'm gonna have to sit here for a couple hours and listen to names, because your name is never called for. Like why would and it was right away, and it was just he does okay, we've got, this runner is from, 35 years old and from Wisconsin. And I was just like, who else is this going to be?
Yeah.
And then he says, and she just set the fastest known time on the Ice Age Trail. And like,
I was like, oh my God. So it was really cool for me because I mean, having the last name Weiss as a W, I'm always last for everything. So, as it was, and then to be called first, it was just a really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So I didn't really have to watch much of it, but it was a saved Facebook video, and then I took I used my phone to take a video of that so I could send it to him because I knew he couldn't get the video, but he could see text and stuff like that. So it was just kind of like, whoa. But then you get an automatic email like you're in, immediately in the next month, we need to know who your crew is. And you have to have four crew members.
Yeah, you have to have at least 2 and no more than
4.
Yeah.
So not only is it, okay, we have to pay to get out there. You've got crew that needs to take time away, so it's like, you can't just come up with crew out of your back pocket in a day. Like you kind of got to ask people and make sure it works for them.
Well, and it's hard sometimes to get somebody.
And how close was it, the date from when you find out?
It's in July.
You find out in February, so by July. And so within a month, he needs to know who your crew is or you're out. He needs to then know that you've gotten certain equipment or you're out. And then you need to know, like, he puts deadlines on when you have to have these, I've gotten all my Biffy bags and okay, good. And you have to show them then when you get there. And so it like UTMB, it was a lot like you have to have this equipment and you have to show for it.
Okay.
We had to get coolers, and then do you bring them from Wisconsin? Do you buy them in California or Nevada? And and how easy is it to travel with big coolers that you need to fill with ice and fluid? It was a very logistically different type of preparation for us. And I know, were kind of a crazy person about it.
Well, I was, because so now we're, if you think back to the timeline, so October 2018, you finish Ice Age, right? And now it's January 2019. And now it's like, okay, here's another big thing. And again, like, it's hard sometimes to find crew for like, hey, I'm doing, a 50-mile race, or I'm doing the Earth Day 50K on Saturday. Can you come out and crew me for 6 hours? Mm-hmm. Now it's, hey, I'm doing Badwater, which starts on a Monday night.
Yeah.
We're flying out to Vegas on Saturday. The race takes 3 days. And you know what I mean? So like you're asking somebody to, to fly to Vegas and hang out with you for
and your
a
whole
week.
Crew had to be there on Sunday.
And take off work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And take off work.
And it's during the week and all that other kind of stuff. And of course, the people that we have helping, have wives and families and kids, the whole 9 yards. It's a huge ask. And then on top of that, here's this list of 750 things that you need to have prepared by the time you get there. And it's like, and she's looking at it like, okay, Brian, you just did Ice Age and, like, everything went smoothly. So you're the expert in logistics. So figure all this out. And it's like, what the hell,
I just got to run. You do the work.
And again, it's like that pressure of if I screw this up, like, it's not just I screw it up. Like, if I screw it up, she doesn't finish.
Yeah.
And again, like, you're $1,500 for a race entry, plus flights to Vegas, plus hotels and cars and
all the other
$10,000 worth of gear and everything else.
And it's even the gear, like sun gear, like I had to get a white skirt or shorts or something. I had to get white sports bra. And again, you don't have to, but you don't want to necessarily be in all black, which is normally what I wear. So now it was even gear stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like an ice cap. Okay. Stuff like that where you know what's going to help you. And that stuff's not easy to find, especially in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
In January.
So you're ordering stuff online, and I was talking with people who've done it before, and stuff like that, and reading blogs about what's the best. And honestly, everyone asked me, well, did your shoes melt? Did you have to run on the white line? No and no. Those are not things that are really.
It's not a real.
It's not a thing. Mm-hmm. I wore the same pair of shoes the whole time.
Okay.
And you are supposed to stay near the white line or within the white line.
Because it's a road.
Because it's a road.
Like, you can't run down the center of it.
If you were to actually run on that line, I think you'd go batty or trip or something, But those are two things that really were not an issue at all. And I think I maybe brought one other pair of shoes.
I think the problem, and it's certainly not a problem, but like with a race like Badwater, what you have as far as research is, like Corey Reese's book, or like one of the Dean Karnazes books where he talks about it. And when somebody is writing about a race, you don't just write, like, okay, I woke up and I ran for 36 hours and then it was over. You think of every possible detail, maybe embellishment, whatever, because you're telling a story, right? Yeah. And so if you read like one of Dean Karnazes' books, Western States is the hardest race in the history of the world, the way he describes it. Mm-hmm. We all know that's not the case. Like, if you've been out there and you've run on those trails and everything else, and yes, you have to go through the hot canyons and everything. I mean, any of the trails that we run around here on a day-to-day basis are way more technical and way more difficult than anything you're going to see at Western States, right?
Okay.
And so, you kind of do this research and you read online and it's like, oh my God. And you read people talking about, oh, my shoes melted into the ground. And I'm like, no, they didn't. But it's a good story and it sells a book and everything else.
But it's also your mind state and where you're at. Because I would argue right now, like, Badwater was in that moment or those days after, I would have claimed that was literally hell and back.
Yeah, that's fair.
And not because it was hot, but literally like one of the worst experiences known to man to have ever occurred ever in life. So like I can see where you can get these stories, because as the athlete, if I were to write a book, I would be talking about how awful it was.
No, that's fair.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
Again, I've tried to get Brian to write a book about this because his experience and our crew's experience and my experience are all really kind of comical stories built into this one massive story of Badwater. And it was, I do plan to go back to Badwater. I want to do it again. It's not going to be this year, but I do want to go back and see if I can do better because I made some errors myself. They did an awesome job. You guys knew what you were doing. And I think, logistically, everything truly, truly worked out. And I think we make fun of Chris for, his laundry list of rules and everything. But, I think it's necessary. I think you have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would have medical emergencies all over the place.
Yeah.
Or people like, well, I only need just a little bit of ice. There'll be a gas station.
No,
there was no gas stations.
There was one. 20-pound bag of ice was $19 if I remember correctly.
Oh my goodness.
Because hey, when you're in Death Valley, right?
Exactly.
Charge whatever the hell you want for ice.
Charge whatever you want.
Our McDonald's bill was.
No, that's at the end of the race. We'll get there. Don't even get me started on the McDonald's bill. Oh my God.
It was a cool experience. It was 120 degrees at the start, and with the heat training I did, you walk into it, and it truly. 100%, no exaggeration, feels like someone is just holding a blow dryer on your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. And there was a wind, so it was like almost identical to that. And it's one of those things where you have to be like, this is what it is.
Was it surprising to feel that?
No, I was prepared for it.
Okay.
It was hot, but you've worked at it, and now I've convinced myself, heat? who cares? Like it's truly all about just changing your frame of mind and your perception of what you're about to go into, whether it's rain.
That's what you
snow.
signed up for.
Yeah,
finish something that was hot
that
and
it's
hard.
hot.
And
and I think a lot of us, you get in a race, you're like, oh, it's raining. Oh, martyr card comes out.
That's me.
Yeah.
Or I've got to run on the roads. This is so hard, or whatever. It doesn't matter whatever what the climate is or the terrain or who's there. It's all about your perception in that moment. And so for me, I convinced myself now, instead of not being able to run in heat, I've now convinced myself that I am the best heat runner in the entire world. And heat, I make it 150 degrees, and all of a sudden, like I'm on fire. And I was running with some of the greatest athletes in the world. All of a sudden, I've got. Of course, their name is
Gina Slaby was there.
Gina Slaby was there, and
from Indiana, Susie.
Yes,
Swinehart.
Swinehart.
Yes.
Swinehart. Thank you. I'm like Weinhardt.
Wine.
I know. Wine. The guy who I beat.
Pete Kostelnick.
Kostelnick. I beat Pete Kostelnick.
Wow.
He actually finished before me, but I beat him somehow in the ranking.
Yeah, it was.
I kind of question how they did that.
Well, do you start? Is it staggered start? Is that?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. So there's an 8 p.m. group, a 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and an 11 p.m.
Yep.
So Susie, Gina, Pete, myself, basically the fastest runners in theory were in the 11 o'clock group. So but the race starts at 8.
Okay.
And everybody has the same cutoff.
Everyone has the same cutoff.
Oh,
the first cutoff. So I was a little nervous because I was like, it was 50 miles, I think, by 10:30 in the morning. I think it was. And I was like, ooh, you never know. Like, especially in 135 miles, my strategy is to start slow and then, your first half is kind of still easy. You don't go out and bust the first 50 miles or something crazy. And I'm like,
but you're
what
feeling
if
like you might have to
I
bust
might
it?
have to kind of pick it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I made it. I think I was there by 9:30 or 10.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
something.
it was one of those situations where, like, when she's at mile 40, I'm looking at my watch and I'm kind of like, oh shit, she's got like 90 minutes to go another 10 miles. Like, I hope we're going to be okay here because, again, you're like, the thing that most people don't realize about Badwater is that, excuse me.
I thought it was a flat line.
Yeah, it's
like
not.
I thought it was flat the whole
Like,
way.
Yeah, you see the pictures of people running on the road.
You run.
Yeah.
Cool. It's just flat road.
You run, and like that first checkpoint is like a couple of thousand feet of
up a
elevation.
mountain,
Okay.
So like you've done this 50 mile and it's on the roads, and you've also gone up 2,500, 3,000 feet from where you started, basically straight up. So if you look at the Badwater logo, it's like this, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't
Okay.
realize but that's because
are the
there's
climbs.
3 big ass climbs that are a
Didn't
part of
know
the race. And that's why the logo looks that way.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean,
Who'da
again,
known?
I have a tendency to be a little bit of a worrier, like about things like that. So I'm like, oh God, and you don't want to say anything like, hon, you need to pick it up.
Yeah.
And then we're like 2 or 3 miles later and it's okay. Yeah, no, she's fine. Everything is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was running comfortably, nothing. I'm not a fast runner. I'm not a slow runner. I was just doing a nice, comfortable pace, knowing I had so much more. You have so much more to go. But if you make that first cutoff, I don't think there is any other cutoff.
Well, yeah, there's like the final cutoff.
Yes.
And everybody has until whatever. I think it's
Wednesday
like Wednesday at noon or something like that. I don't remember exactly what
I think it was actually 8 p.m. at night because it was through dinner time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So anyways, so you get to that cutoff and that's fine. And again, it's still 120 degrees and you're trucking through or whatever. And the next part that I remember, what I remember in my head is going down the straight road and you can just see the mountain. And it had gotten hotter and Kevin was running with me. That's what I remember next. And so I'm not sure what the
Yeah, no, that's
was
about
in
right. Yeah.
That's the next memory I have. It was so hot and I was just smiling. I was happy.
Yeah.
It was the greatest feeling in the world.
So you weren't having any stomach issues.
No.
You were dealing with the heat.
No,
really
I'm a
well.
pretty good eater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a good eater. I'm a good drinker. They were keeping me cool. They bought some bad watermelon.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I could taste it was bad.
We should take half a step
rancid.
back here. So Annie was talking about like the gear and how do you get everything out, to Death Valley and all that sort of thing. We decided that outside of like the clothing and that sort of thing, all of the coolers, ice, food, snacks, all that stuff, we're going to buy it when we get out there.
Yeah.
And so we stayed in a town it's about 90 minutes outside of Vegas, and it's called Pahrump. And it's still about an hour from there into Badwater Basin, but it's a town of like 30,000 people, and it's got like a Target and hotels and restaurants and the whole 9 yards. So you can like, in the race materials, they're like, oh, you can get a cottage, like right in Death Valley, and it's $7 million a night during race week and all that sort of thing. And me being a little bit on the frugal side,
once a year,
right? Exactly.
Exactly.
Me being a little bit on the frugal side, it's like, no, we'll drive and we'll stay a little bit outside. And so we like the night we left the hotel at like 8:00. And we like drove to Walmart, and we're walking around. We're like, okay, we're gonna chips and cookies and all this. And I like grabbed 2 things of watermelon. Like, hey, everybody loves watermelon when it's hot and all that sort of thing.
The guy who knows how to pick out produce over here.
Yeah, which is not me. One of the joys of living with a dietitian is I know nothing about food because I just eat whatever she tells me.
Yeah, you do all the planning,
exactly.
and she does all the.
So I inadvertently grabbed some
the pre-cut plastic container.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and it started, that's at 8:00 at night, and it goes into a cooler of ice, perhaps, and I assume that's where you guys put it.
It was.
And so now it's, I started at 11 p.m. I didn't go into that watermelon until noon the next day. So I'm eating the watermelon, and I'm like, oh man, this is rancid. Like, and I keep eating it because I'm like, well, it's liquid, and it tastes.
Do you ever think
gross,
that maybe
but
you just think it tastes bad?
Well, and that's another thing too. Like, you never know. Like, and you just are getting what you need in.
Yeah.
You're thirsty, so you have some watermelon or whatever, and it tasted off. I knew it was probably rancid. Okay, so I carry on, and they're like, well, do you want anything while we're in this, one gas station area? I'm like, well, like a Slurpee would really be great, or like a slushy. So they bring me back, and he knows I like lemon and kind of sharper flavors and stuff. He brings me back the 64-ounce slushy, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. So of course you're going up a mountain. It's the second climb, and it was.
And are you carrying your 60-ounce
And I was
slushy?
carrying mine with both hands. And I drank it all.
Yeah.
So you keep going, and it flattens out, start running again. I'm with the guys, and one of the guys was with me, and we get back to you, and I eat some more food, and I'm, whatever. And I was complaining a lot of the time. I'm like, man, it feels like I'm pregnant. Like, I've got like something's not right. Like, my stomach is really hard. Mm-hmm. Well, it just must be an effect of, it's heat, electrolytes. I know the deal. Like, okay, it's fine, whatever. My friend Keith starts up with me, and Keith is from Kansas City. He's a chemist, and so you think he's really professional, but then he's like, nah.
Well, he's a chemist, but he's also a trail runner. I think
that's
the easiest way to say it.
So he gets it. He has seen. He's been on many adventures with me. You go to the bathroom in front of these people. Mm-hmm. Like, it's one of those things where he's seen my bare ass at some point.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes.
That's just that.
Yeah. So anyways, he's with me, and it was a good thing he was with me, because all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, something just isn't right. And I unleashed the fury out coming my front, and it was all the watermelon, none of the Slurpee or anything. It's like my stomach just turned.
Yeah.
Watermelon, and just everything came up except the Slurpee and what I had just eaten.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was like, my stomach didn't feel bloated anymore. I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like, it was great. And I had no idea why that. I swear it was the watermelon that was causing that issue. But I mean, it really, truly, I had no nutrition issues. I wasn't swelling. I wasn't cramped. Nothing. I didn't feel crappy. I know all of those signs. It's just the stomach flipped. Something had to get out. The electrolytes were a little off probably. And we kept going, and he was just like, oh my God. And we get back, and I don't know if he told you about it, but you guys ended up, he had to leave that night, after I finished. Mm-hmm. And he was driving back, and he saw everything.
Oh, yeah.
Still on the road. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, this is awful. How many people had to run through all this? And of course, it was the whole road just full. But it was, that's something I remember. I think you probably remember other things about those moments in that part. But
Yeah, so I mean, it's like there's no aid stations or anything like that.
Right.
And so what they talk about is basically, you need everything in your vehicle, and you just basically drive a couple miles ahead and park and wait. And so like going into it, I was kind of like, man, this is really going to suck because like 135 miles in a crew van, 3 miles at a time, like, I start running the numbers and that's like 47 times I'm going to drive and stop.
And then set up a little
Yeah,
aid station.
But truth be told, it was actually pretty nice. And I almost felt guilty about it because like we would drive and park, you just watch the odometer and you're like, okay, well, we drove 3 miles and you park. And it's just like you leave the air conditioning on and we're like just lean back. And again, Chris has a lot of rules. And one of the rules is that, again, like the race is taking place on a public road. And so there's a lot of things about safety and everything else. And as a runner, you have to run on the opposite shoulder, of course. And you can only have one crew person on the other side. Like, so as a runner, you can have at most 2 people with you.
Okay.
And so if you've got a pacer with you, only one crew person can come over. And so like with the 3 guys that we had crewing, basically somebody was running with her and somebody else was always like, well, I want to crew this time. And so I'm just kind of like, I'll just like sit in the van and like just wave.
I think you paced 3 miles total.
Yeah.
The entire time, and you crewed. I think there was one time I was in tears. I was like, I just want Brian over here.
Yeah, that did happen. Yeah, I remember that.
There was one time like that, and otherwise, I think the guys were.
Yeah. I was just like making sure that everything was like, okay, we put the water back in the cooler and like, we have enough ice and like, okay, we're out of Rice Krispie treats, whatever.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. So.
I do recall a stretch though during the night, and I don't quite believe any of your stories about who was doing it, but like that whole 3 mile ahead thing, there was basically a 20-mile stretch where I didn't see any of you, and I was like in tears. I was like, "Where's the van? Where is it?" And you guys just kept going forward without stopping, and I was convinced like the van, like I could see the taillights and you guys going.
Like, oh, there she is. We'll move away.
Yes.
Yeah, which is completely that's completely false. So this was at about like mile 90. Okay, so you start thinking about the math. You woke up at 8 a.m. Monday morning.
Yes.
The race starts at 11 p.m.
Anticipating a nap.
Monday evening. Now it is say 7 or 8 p.m. Tuesday. So now you've been awake for 36 hours straight, essentially, and the sun is starting to go down. So anybody, that's done an ultra, that's done 100 miler, when the sun starts going down, that's when things have a tendency to start to get ugly a little bit, right? Yes. And so there was a stretch, and it was right around mile 90 where we could not go the 3 miles. And there are a couple of parts where the road is like, it's something with like the national park rules where there's like certain spots where you're not allowed to stop. And so we had to go, instead of 3 miles, we had to go like 3.6 miles. But that 0.6 miles in her mind was another 20 miles.
I'm going to write a book about my perception of Badwater.
And then I'll do a fact check on it. Tell you what actually happened.
But it's true, though, because I didn't sleep that Monday before starting, and this was my biggest mistake of all. Going into Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, I was seeing things that you shouldn't see in the desert, like dinosaurs, and like very delusional. I was saying things to my crew members that were like almost like dream state, and then I would say something thinking that we were talking about this, and they were like,
okay.
"What are you talking?
What are you talking about?"
I was playing a lot of games. Like Brad was like, just have this Oreo, eat this, and I was like, well, if I eat that, can I not run this next little bit? And he's like, yeah, you eat the Oreo, you don't have to run the next 10 yards. We'll walk 10 yards and then it'll start running again. Because my legs were, just cash at this point. So I would eat the Oreo and sit down and try to go to sleep. And at some point I wandered into the desert and made a sand pillow and put my head on it for a minute. And Kevin dragged me back into the road. I mean, it was the night part, which was the easiest running I would have had if I would have been capable of running at that point was just destroyed because I was so exhausted. And I probably went 140 miles just because I was going back and forth on the road, you know. And
well, and again, so there's 3 big climbs, right? Mm-hmm. And the first 2 are in that first 80 miles. Mm-hmm. And then you come down, and this is when the sun's going down on Tuesday night. And like she said, there's like a 25-mile stretch where you're not climbing, it's flat, it's easy. Now you're like on the other side of the mountain, so even when it's light out, it's not 110 degrees. Mm-hmm. It's like in 90. The high 70s, low 80s,
so
you know.
Does that start to feel like air conditioning?
It was cold, yeah. Cold, yeah.
And so like it's all set up, and like, as you know, again, as the sun's going down, I'm looking at it, it's like she's got like 40 miles left, and it's 7:00 on two. Like, man, we're gonna be done by like midnight, 1:00. Like, this is awesome, you know, this is so great. And then it got dark and all hell broke loose.
It was 20 miles took like 7 hours.
Yeah. I mean, like the easiest part of the whole course, and you walked like 98% of it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to sound like, because
okay.
like I sure as hell wouldn't have been able, I would have been dead long before then anyway. So, but yeah, like when you talk about going back and doing it a second time, like that's the things that you think about.
Yeah.
Even if you had ran half of it.
I know.
You know, you're talking.
I wasn't there to
2 or
race to
3,
begin with, but it still was like, man, how did I screw that up? I knew I needed to sleep. I should have taken a Benadryl or something to knock me out during the day
on Monday.
Because I'm not a daytime sleeper.
Yeah.
I don't nap, and it's I can go to bed at 7:00 and be asleep till the morning, but I can't sleep at 11 or 1 p.m. You know, or anything like that. So that was where I really, really screwed up and caused that whole issue during the night. And when the sun came up, there are some pretty terrible pictures of me in that space of time where it was just like, whoa. And you get to the final climb, it's 13 miles up
Mount Whitney.
To the finish. And at some point I turned to Kevin and I'm like, can you just hold my hand, please? Just hold my hand going up the hill. And I'm like, please.
And then maybe drag me a little.
Yeah, like I just pull slightly. But it was so emotionally draining, and my legs had never felt that type of soreness and pain before. It was very different.
Wow.
Something I want to do again to correct everything and just have a better experience. But I do think in the end it was a very unique experience for all of us.
And again, like from somebody who didn't participate in it at all, it was one of the most fun things that I've ever been a part of. And we took the 3 guys that came with us, Keith and Kevin and Brad. And these were 3 guys who all did multiple days with us on the Ice Age Trail. Okay. Keith, like Annie said, he came up and ran a couple times in 2017 in the first Ice Age attempt.
I met him at a Run Mindful retreat.
Oh, cool.
So it was we just met randomly and have kept in touch.
Yeah, and he's paced you both times you did Leadville.
Yep.
So like he's been around, like Annie said before. So, and these are guys obviously because of the exposure that we've had, you know, through the things that Annie has done. Like I've become friends with these guys as well. So you picture here's essentially at any given time 3 or 4 of us, because there are spots where she couldn't have a pacer and things like that.
Okay.
We're, you know, four
dudes
in a van. Like, and it was so much fun.
Oh,
I can't even imagine the conversations you guys were having. I don't even want to know what was going on. Will you tell the McDonald's story now?
Yeah, okay. So the town.
So she's finished at this point, right?
No. It was the last 20 miles,
okay.
I would say, where the sun was coming up and they wanted to eat.
Okay.
So again, we're like now Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and I had woken up Monday morning at like 2:30 a.m. And I had to do like a 20-mile run for like my own training or whatever. So like I'm out in this little town in Nevada, and I'm literally running like 5-mile legs, like from our hotel out to the other end of town and back was 5 miles.
Yeah.
So I did that like 4 times. And there's a cop who, like, at one point he drove by and he put the Rocky theme song like playing out of the speaker of his car. And I'm like, come on, dude. You know? So I'm up at 2:30 a.m. Monday morning. Now we are approaching like midnight, 1 a.m. Tuesday. So I've been awake for almost 48 hours with no sleep at all.
And a 20-mile run.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
He's not a sleeper though.
Yeah, I can do
You
okay
do
like
pretty
4 or
good.
5 hours of sleep a night most of the time. Is not a big deal, but not 48 hours straight. And so like, and I'm driving the van and everything. And Brad at one point is like, okay, they essentially they thought I was drunk, which is interesting because I haven't been
sober.
drunk in 15, 18 years, 20
Yeah.
years, however long it's been. I was essentially like delusional without any of the running stuff.
Okay.
And so Brad like forced me into the back of the van. He's like, you're not allowed to drive. You're not allowed to do anything but sleep for a little while. And so I'm falling asleep and I'm still worried about Annie. And I kept like, as I was falling asleep, I kept having this dream that like she had gotten passed by like 3/4 of the field. And that like, she wasn't going to make the cutoff and all. So I kept asking like, you guys are going to take care of Annie while I'm asleep, right? Like, don't let her fail. Don't let her die. Like, I just kept saying it like over and over and over
Yeah.
again. And everybody's like, dude, just shut the hell up and go to sleep. Like, so I slept for like 45 minutes maybe. And I'm like, I'm
Talking the
yeah,
entire
like,
time.
and then like I pop back up and I'm like, all right, let's do this. And so now we're getting like 4:30, 5 a.m. Sun's starting to come up and we're 6-7 miles outside of whatever that town is. It's at the base of Mount Whitney. And
Yeah.
I have to do better at like remembering these things. And I'm sorry that I
You did
can't.
pretty good.
But there was a McDonald's there. And so Brad was like, okay, we need to like, Annie's crashing. She needs like caffeine. She needs like Starbucks coffee drinks, all that. Let's go into town and we'll go through the McDonald's. We'll go to the gas station. We'll get like all the stuff that we need for this last like 15-mile push. Okay, great. So we pull into this McDonald's and I'm like, all right, what should we do? And Brad's like, no, I'll just handle it. And he's like, so we need 8 coffees and 8 McMuffins and 8 hash browns. And I'm like, okay, so and in my head, I'm still like a little sleep deprived. And I'm like, we just spent like $100 on crap at the gas station of like Starbucks drinks and chips and cookies and all that kind of stuff. Like, why the hell is he ordering so much food? Like, because there's still just 4 of us, and like
Yeah.
you're not going to eat
I'm not
15 Egg McMuffins.
Nope,
And Brad was
I
the
didn't
only
eat any
person
of
who
them.
drinks coffee. So we've got 8 cups of coffee rolling around this van. And so there, she's like, oh, okay, your total is going to be $91.40. And I'm like, what the hell? Because again, you're still in this kind of
kind
Death
of in the
Valley
middle of
range,
nowhere, yeah.
where
middle of
like,
nowhere,
hey, an
gas
Egg
is still
McMuffin in
$5.
California
Oh
is
my
$10. And I'm like,
Wow.
What'd you put on the
oh
receipt?
my God.
What'd you write on the receipt when you signed your name?
That wasn't at McDonald's.
Oh,
That
okay.
was at the gas station.
Oh, okay. What did you write?
I honestly, what was that all about? Tell that story.
Didn't you write poop on the? He signed his name, poopy pants or something.
That's right. I read about that. So yes, I'm still a little bit sleep deprived, and I have this like, and Annie can attest to this. I don't know why I do it. I'm sorry. But like, if we're at a hotel and like I take a shower and you steam up the mirror, I write the word poop on the mirror. And like again,
When he helps me with verbiage for different things, he'll be like, and signed poopy pants.
And so like we're in this gas station in this little town and we just
You and
bought
Brad.
me and Brad. We just bought all this crap and I give him my credit card and he hands me the receipt and I just write the word poop on the receipt. And I'm like, I am laughing hysterically. And it's like, here's this poor guy at this gas station like in the middle of nowhere and it's 3:00 in the morning and he's like, he doesn't even look at it. He just puts it in the cash register and goes back to watching Love Connection on the TV or whatever. I'm like, oh God.
Oh yeah,
But in my mind, I was hilarious.
I love that story.
Yeah. So that was like that in that town in the span of like 10 minutes, we spent like $200
Jeez.
on food, of which you
No one
probably
ate.
ate.
I ate a half
none
a
of
hash
it.
brown.
Yeah.
I do remember having.
Oh my
Half a
gosh.
hash brown.
Yeah.
So what happened to all the McMuffins and the hash browns and
Well,
the
the-
You
coffee?
guys did eat that.
The McMuffins did eventually get eaten. One
Okay.
or two of them got eaten like literally the next day.
Okay.
Like
You're
as
like,
we were
"You're
like
eating that."
cleaning out the van, I'm like, Brad, you have to eat that.
that,
Because
yep.
we were convinced we needed 8 of these things at $10 a piece.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
But yeah, there was a lot of food that was left.
Yep.
When it was all said and done, because at that, I mean, again, it's like any
don't know
other
what you're
ultra.
gonna
eat. Yeah.
We go and we're like, okay, we're gonna get her this and this and this and this and this and this, and we see her and she's like, I just want like a little bit of water and some ice in my hat. And it's like, oh, shit.
Yep. No, the truly, honestly, not a plug at all. The thing that got me through Badwater more than anything. I mean, yeah, I was eating food, and do you remember I was doing fluid nutritions electrolyte mixes.
Yeah.
They have one that's orange in flavor and chilled. I love dreams, orange-sicle thing.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
like for me,
That's
it
a
was
good
like the best
flavor.
thing. Yeah. So I would chug one of those. And then I was actually using in Badwater specifically, and I don't know if there's science behind it. This is just my experience. I was using their recovery mix during the run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where you were doing like 2 packets in there, and
Yeah.
I was drinking both of those
So
while
like a
supplementing.
protein.
Yeah, like a protein
it
thing like
was
you would
it's a
do
3
after
to
a
1
run.
ratio.
Okay.
So it's 2 packets then was like 20 grams of protein with 3 times the carb, which still isn't enough carb, and so you're supplementing with other things
Yeah.
per hour. But it just added for me. I think it just was something I was easily taking in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked the taste, and it was really cold because everything was on ice.
Yeah.
So when it's that hot, that cold tasting stuff like the watermelon, the Slurpee was really, really nice to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say in Badwater alone, I did more liquid stuff
Yeah.
than actual food stuff.
Yeah, I would agree
Okay.
with that.
Which we don't know. You don't know going
know.
in. I mean, when I did kettle 2 years ago, it was pizza.
Yeah.
Like the whole time, and it was more solid foods, and it's just a crapshoot when you're ultra running what you want to eat.
And it doesn't always match what you trained on
Correct.
necessarily.
Yeah.
No, not always, and you have to be open to a lot of different things. And I remember being at Superior helping a friend complete the 100-miler, and I'm waiting for her at an aid station, and I'm listening to like all of the different things they had. It was very overwhelming to me. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even, what do I want? I don't know. And I'm listening to people and they're eating, but they were very particular. And I'm like, boy, I don't think I could be particular in a race.
Yeah.
You don't know how you're going to feel, and feelings affect what we choose, and our hormones affect what we choose, and our electrolyte balance affects what we choose. And we have to be willing to eat all sorts of different types of foods in those circumstances. And that race particularly was a very fluid, heavy race for me. So having fluid nutrition with me was really, really helpful for that. Yeah. So whereas, other things, CCC was all meat, cheese, and bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd have known, So it's, again,
And that was feeling good. That
and
was
that,
feeling
yeah,
good, yeah.
same kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, different temperature, but same. It's not like the challenge was very similar. So it's just kind of how it goes, I think, which is cool.
Yeah.
So did all of you guys cross the finish line together
We
then?
did.
We did.
Oh,
we
fun.
did. I made everyone come out there, and I actually ran for that little tenth of a
Is
mile.
it uphill the last
It is
tenth
everything.
Of the,
The
mile?
last 13 miles is straight up. And at some point, I was with Keith, and I was like, "Oh, this is awful." And he's like, or maybe it was Kevin. I don't remember. But he's
Kevin.
like, "Just
Kevin did that whole
stop
climb
right
with you."
now. You are gonna stop." He's like, "I want you to look out there," and he made me look. And he's like, "You started at that point. You were struggling at this, because you can see
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
so high up."
So you're on the same road the entire time, right? Or there's like no
You turn
We
with
turned once, I
13
think.
miles to go. And
Okay.
that's when you're in that town at the base of well, no, that's not true. You just come out of Badwater Basin, and then you turn left onto like the main road. And that's like maybe 10, 15 miles. And then you're like 100 miles to this town. And then you turn left at a stoplight to go up to Mount Whitney.
Okay.
and you need to
Yeah.
know
That's
that it's not like it's marked that's what you do.
I mean, there was
somebody
a
there,
flagger at
Oh,
best.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you knew when you needed to turn. I didn't need to make sure I remembered that.
Okay.
Especially going up the last 13. They actually had a time mat there, I think, or someone recording that you got
Okay.
to that point.
Yeah.
But he made me stop, and there was maybe 3 miles left, and I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And like that moment where someone gets you out of that funk and just stops you, and he made me look at everything.
Oh, that's
It was
great.
a beautiful sight.
Oh, it's
of
unreal.
course.
It's
I mean,
unbelievable.
Totally unreal. And it put it into perspective, like, okay, 3 miles, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we hiked pretty well the last
Yeah.
few miles of that race. It actually was pretty productive, and we were moving quick. But still no running in that last part. It's not runnable.
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
think.
unless you're, like a Courtney or somebody like that, like it's 10, 12, 15, 20% grade for 10 miles up.
Yeah.
And you're on the road and you're just switch back and forth and back and forth. I've never seen anything like that. Like as far as a race environment, I've never seen anything that was as steep as that climb was in certain spots.
Yeah, it was really steep.
Like to where you even feel dangerous, like parking the van, like are the brakes going to hold, or is the
Okay.
van going to roll backwards down the
right,
hill?
right, right. We finished, which was again kind of non-climactic.
Yeah, like
They
like
want
any other
picture-
ultra.
Yeah,
you know.
it's, it was cool, and there were people there, and you get your picture taken and everything. He gives you your buckle and your shirt, and you don't get to see any of that until you finish, which is
Okay.
cool. It's kind of like you have to get there in order to earn
Yeah.
it. And Kevin and Keith carried me to the van, and I, put
Literally.
me in, literally, and put me in the
'Cause
front
now
seat.
you cannot move.
No, I was over. It
Yeah.
was done, and I fell asleep immediately.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything. And we got back to the hotel, and I was stretched horizontal on the bed. Kevin was on the couch. Brad was on his own bed. Keith was on the floor. Brian you were vertical in our bed.
Yeah.
And we slept all day.
And
then
everybody was out.
everyone was out. I at some point woke up probably after an hour or so and was like, this is gross. And I went in. I drew a bath. I fell asleep in the bathtub.
Oh, wow.
I know. I was like, did anyone think to check on me?
No, because we were all asleep
They were all
also.
asleep,
Yeah.
so no
Yeah.
one knew that I had, and eventually,
how scary.
the water was so tepid it wakes you up a
Yeah.
little bit. It was gross, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna shower real quick now, and and it's 6:00 at night at
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
point, and we decided to go get pizza, but we were all just
Yeah.
out. It was
Yeah.
unreal.
Well,
how
rightfully so.
exhausting. Yeah, yeah.
It was
you
quite an
just don't think
adventure.
That
Yeah.
like you're like,
So
I'll
you
be
need
fine.
to plan a day to sleep before you hop on the airplane. to
Yes.
head back.
Oh yeah, yeah. We were.
Yeah, so we
were
checked out of the
out.
hotel Thursday morning because we stayed that night. Wednesday night at the base of Mount Whitney.
Okay.
And we checked out of that hotel Thursday morning, and then we drove back to Vegas, and we stayed one or two nights
One night.
one night in Vegas.
So Friday night we had
Yeah.
a flight, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Did
so
you get to enjoy Vegas? Could you walk and stuff?
oh
Did we ever?
Michelle, so like we're all the way, excuse me, we're all the way at the south end of the strip on. And we were at Luxor or Mandalay.
yeah, we were at Luxor.
I've been to Vegas more times than I can count, and we're like, do you want to go out and walk? Brad had never been there, I think.
Yeah,
so
it was his
like,
first time there.
And so, we're walking and I'm like, Annie, are you sure? Like, we're like a mile and a half, like, and we have to walk back, Oh, no, it's fine. So we end up like at the far northern end of the strip now. And
I
now
wanted to show Brad everything.
and now we've got like a 3-mile walk back. And like, we just start heading back south and Annie's like, my feet hurt. My legs. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like, I've been the same for an hour.
I was probably more sore from that walk than
Yeah.
anything.
That was not a smart move.
That
on
would
our
maybe
part.
not.
Yeah.
But we didn't go to a show or anything. I
No.
don't think. I think we
We just
were
ate.
Yeah, we ate.
walk
We
might
did a
have been good for
buffet.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just kind of were like, and we're going to bed.
Yeah.
Again, more sleep. So it was a cool experience. Flying. We all flew back together. Brad, well, the three of us
Awesome.
Yeah.
did. And again, it's just someone I didn't know going into Ice Age that I met because he wanted to come run for a day. And I mean, I had known him just from being out
Yeah,
and
social
about, but-
media and races and
but
stuff.
now we'd actually met and we're friends and hang out. It just is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
When
That
it comes
sounds
to
amazing.
Badwater.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just really neat.
Well,
That is really
congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
That's really
Thank
cool.
you.
So you guys have lots of experience and everything, and you're coaches. So
Yep.
Yes.
let's talk about coaching a little bit,
Yeah, so we
and a dietitian as well.
Yep, so coach and dietitian for Ornery Mule, and then
I'm just a coach.
You're a coach.
I don't have any dietitian.
we
Or
call you-
and a planner.
yeah, travel agent.
Oh yeah, travel
Yeah.
planner.
Wedding
Oh,
planner.
yes.
Oh, I mean travel planner. But kind of like a wedding planner.
Just
No,
talk
not
about the
at
dietitian stuff.
So yeah, coach and dietitian. So we provide coaching services to athletes, whether you want to do your first 5K or you're doing a 100-miler or you're doing a multi-sport type thing, whatever it might be. I come from this perspective of, just running in time and out there and you're happy and doing things because you love it. And your focus, I think, is pace related.
Yeah, I'm more, I guess, classic,
Traditional.
like road marathon, like workouts are in miles, and we have like speed days and stuff like that. Yeah, because that's what I've trained on. That's what I know, and that's
Yeah.
what works for me.
That's what
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, complementing that, I also provide a dietitian service. So I'm a registered dietitian. I have a master's in sports nutrition, and basically provide. It really depends on the person and what they're looking for. But in most cases, as athletes, they're going to be looking for sports nutrition. What do I eat before? What do I eat during? What do I eat after? And like we were talking about, there's no telling what foods are going to work or not work.
Yeah.
And it's very different. So I don't tell people, well, you should eat this food and this food. Everyone needs to stop shooting on people with what foods they should or shouldn't eat.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you the numbers. Here's what you need per hour. Here's what you need overall.
Okay.
Here's what's going to help you. Fluid requirements, all of those types of things. And every body is very different. So I can't come in and say you need this many calories per hour when for each person is very different. Some things that work, let's say a kettle, aren't going to work at, States or in Flagstaff because the altitude is different.
Yeah.
And now you've got, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
based on where you're racing, your nutrition requirements can change quite.
And you have many
Yeah.
years of experience in this. You've
I
been doing this
do.
since when? Like 2000.
I've been running since 2009, I think, and I've been a dietitian actually since 2008.
Okay.
So I've been practicing for quite a while now, and my main job is in behavioral health. So I come from the background of eating disorders primarily, and there's no good foods, there's no bad foods. It's okay to have fast food. It's okay to have desserts. It's okay to have gluten. It's okay to have carbs and fat and protein. And it doesn't matter. We need to stop with these labels and diet culture and all of that kind of stuff. Our bodies are what they are. They don't need to look a certain way. And because they look a certain way doesn't mean you perform a certain way.
Yeah.
But you can optimize your performance in whatever body you're in by just, honestly, most people, it's tweaks that they need, or oftentimes they're not eating anything when they run. Well, I
Yeah.
go out on my 20 miler and I just have some water, and I'm like, well, if you start doing this, all of a sudden they start
Yeah.
improving. So it's pretty cool. I enjoy it. But, offering anything from sports nutrition, sometimes weight management, those are two very hard things to pair together. Oftentimes people who want weight management in the form of weight loss are just running not because they like it, but because they want to see that result.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really kind of changing the behavior of why we're doing things, and obviously disease state type stuff, high blood pressure, you see time and again, and all that kind of stuff. But primarily as a coach, in the behavioral world, I'm doing more disordered eating and sports nutrition type stuff, which is pretty cool.
That's
Okay,
that's
great.
cool.
Yeah.
And I like your approach to the whole dietitian. you know.
No diet culture. We'll
Yeah,
just kick
yeah,
that out.
I totally agree.
There's no good foods or bad foods.
Yeah.
It's just here. If I put out a plate of cupcakes, all of us should be like, wow, those are beautiful. Well, how colorful.
Yeah.
Like I love chocolate or vanilla or whatever versus like
Yeah.
I
getting
can't be in the
really
same
weird.
room as those cupcakes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's
Terrible.
Like, we can't give power to food.
Yeah.
Like it's just food. It's supposed to nourish us, and it doesn't matter that what its composition is or that it's processed, or it doesn't matter. If I put a bowl of Doritos, we should go, wow, look at how it's so kind of
I love Doritos,
cheesy looking.
yeah.
Like we should have positive things to say about it.
Yeah.
Whether in that moment it's something we want to eat or we don't want to eat, and be okay with that.
Yeah.
So that's the approach that really, I think, how you never had a crazy approach about food, but I think that helps just in general from what you've seen and the people I've worked with.
Yeah, I mean,
Because he hears all the stories.
Yeah, my
I'm sure. Yeah.
my food background is like most people's food background, where it's like you hear, oh, carbs are bad and fat is bad, and all you're supposed to do is eat vegetables. But well, no, now we don't eat vegetables. We only eat meat, and now we don't eat meat. So
Yeah, it's
like just
crazy.
whatever anybody
It's
hears.
confusing.
And when I met Annie, it was kind of like just eat. And the problem isn't the food. The problem is your relationship with the food.
Yes, absolutely.
If you are unhappy about something and your thought is immediately, I'm unhappy, I'm going to have ice cream, you now have an unhealthy relationship with ice cream,
Yes.
right? And you don't need to get rid of the ice cream. You need to get rid of
that
the
thought process.
unhappiness.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
To where now it's like you said, I can look at it and I can say, hey, we can have ice cream. It's not a big deal because it's ice cream. It's
Yeah.
not doing anything bad to us unless we're eating it every single day.
Yeah.
And then it's too much.
And even if it is every single day, then that's in some situation, that's not a bad thing either.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, if
it
you're
all
running
depends on the
90,
person.
100 miles a week,
yeah,
you could probably...
you never
yeah,
know what
yeah.
people's
Yeah.
situation is, and it's like you said, it's the relationship with food, and it's really cool when it's like, I'm sad, I'm eating this.
Yeah.
I know I'm doing that because I'm sad.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with eating your emotions, as they say, as long as you recognize it. Because a lot of people, they don't want to blame their own feelings and emotions.
Yes.
They want to put it on the food. And that's not the case. We can love eating a Twinkie time and again. That's okay. It's not
Yeah.
a bad thing. and so always kind of asking like, why am I doing this? What is the point of this? Do I really enjoy chia seed pudding or kale smoothies? I know I don't.
No,
I don't eat
nobody
any of
does.
that stuff.
No.
So like, I don't want to do that. I want to
Yeah.
eat the things that I love and enjoy. And
Yeah.
what does that look like? And it's okay if it's not vegetables all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. We didn't have a vegetable at dinner last night.
No, it's true. Hamburgers on pretzel buns.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That's how we eat in our
actually
house.
I love pretzel buns. They are so good.
Oh, I love them. I had 2 pretzel buns. Yeah.
Ooh.
It's true.
I know. I was like, this is really good. And I just kept eating.
And
it.
I like what you said about being positive about food, because I do that with my daughter when we see food. I'm like, look at how cool that cake looks. Look at the
Yeah.
detail. It
Yeah.
took someone time to make that. Or look at that. Like, we'll go to a restaurant. If we go visit my dad and stepmom when they're in Florida, we get like a plate with a full fish on it. It's I'm like, look at how cool that fish looks and how they prepared it. Like, we're always trying to be conscious about that. So I
Yeah.
totally agree
That's
with that. That's
so
really cool.
important.
Yes.
Positive.
To
Yeah.
teach your kids that
language.
stuff.
Yes.
And truly what we can do, look at what we can do with sugar
Yeah.
to make it look like
Look,
that.
it looks so cool.
Right. And even edible flours and
Yeah.
how we manufacture different things.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yep.
And we shouldn't poo-poo that.
No.
It's
I
really
watch a
cool
lot
thing.
of videos where people decorate cakes.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
just like, oh my gosh,
I
look at
know.
how amazing.
And then you try and you're like,
That doesn't look good. No, I'll just eat it.
right.
Yep.
Okay, well, one last thing
Yeah.
is everybody's going to want to follow you guys on social media. And so we know what Brian did. We want you to share what your plans are for 2020.
My plans. So I am taking a sidestep from ultras for at least the first part of the year, focusing on the marathon. So I'm going back to kind of an old goal of breaking 3 hours and trying to see if I
cool.
can. I'm pretty far from that at this point, but just improving on speed and stuff like that.
Nice.
And then I've got a qualifier. We're both doing Beaverhead 100K. So I
Okay.
think that's the Continental Trail?
Continental Divide, yeah.
Okay.
Continental Divide. And then the plan is to attempt the Arizona Trail.
Oh,
or
great.
maybe the Florida Trail.
Okay.
Oh.
I don't know quite yet.
So
see.
we'll share that on
Yeah,
social
to be
media so people
continued.
can follow.
Yeah, so
but that
it's-
will be in 2020.
That'll be 2020 with basically the reason being is 2020, 2021, 2022 are all I enjoy stage racing, so plans to do stuff overseas in a lot of different places for stages. One of them being I really want to do MDS. So
yes.
so that's kind of preparation more
Yes.
so
Yeah.
for that kind of stuff and credibility.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
you need to
great.
be able to
That's
prove you
awesome.
can finish it.
Well,
Yes.
good. Well, that's very
Awesome.
exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
And thank you to the listeners. Make sure you follow our podcast, our YouTube page, and all of our social media. And we'll see you all on the trail.
Bye.